Does it make sense to borrow a lot of private student loans for law school? I'm going to look at two different kinds of programs and compare public versus private. And we're going to take a look and see what the math might look like. So I'm going to look at NYU. I'm going to look at University of Florida, two decent examples of private higher cost schools and public lower cost schools. So if we take a look at this tool that we built here at Student Loan Planner, let's pretend we've got NYU with $369,000 of total borrowing and UF with $147,000 of total borrowing. Let's say that you're maxing out your federal student loans at $50,000 per year. That would leave you with a significant amount of debt to borrow for private student loans to be able to afford to attend, $73,000 in total private borrowing. Now, if you look at your RAP plan payments, that's the new income-driven repayment plan, that is going to be 10% of your income. Eventually, you'll pay off the whole balance of federal student loans. Private student loans, your payment would be in the $3,000 a month range, and you would also pay down those reasonably fast. If we look at after-tax income, if you were in the 75th percentile of student loan planner readers, that would put you at earning about $200,000 a year as a lawyer. Keep in mind, our readers are more likely to represent a broad spectrum of lawyers and not just big law associates. Of course, there's a higher chance going to an NYU kind of place that you would be a big law associate potentially if that was a goal of yours. If you have that kind of setup with your income, are you better off than if you just did the bachelor's degree? Well, technically, yes. You're significantly better off, about $30,000 or so of after-tax income, more so than if you'd done a bachelor's degree and earned $70,000. We get this by looking at pre-tax income, after-tax income, income after taxes and student loans, and comparing that to the income after taxes with just the bachelor's degree. And there's a decent positive ROI on that. Now, if you look at this income, though, eventually you pay off your federal and private student loans, and then you're earning substantially more. Now, in reality, this is understating it, because if you were going to stay in big law, you might make a lot more, but you'd also be working really intense hours and putting in a lot of intense effort. And, what would that look like in terms of quality of life? All those things are reasonable questions, right? It's not just a question of what is the positive financial ROI. Of course, being a big law attorney long-term is going to have a higher ROI than just doing a bachelor's degree only. But, it's important to think about, will you stay in that kind of field if you end up taking a corporate counsel job and you're quote unquote only earning, in the 75th to 90th percentile of student loan planner lawyer readers? Is that still a good trade-off? I mean, these numbers would suggest, yes, it is. Now, if you were going to be in the average income range borrowing at a school like at NYU, is that still positive trade-off? Yeah, but not nearly as much. Now, what if you went to a lower cost school like University of Florida? If we go to that kind of an institution, we're only borrowing federal student loans. You're under the $50,000 per year borrowing limit, so you don't need to take out private student loans at all in that case. Now, would it be realistic to say that you'd attend that kind of school and make an average income in our survey of $160,000 for lawyers? Maybe yes, but maybe not. Let's say you're earning the 25th percentile of income among lawyers. Is that still a good decision? Well, yes, because the ratio of your income after taxes and student loan payments to your income if you just done the bachelor's degree and stopped, that's 20% higher income. You're earning about $10,000 to $13,000 more after taxes take home after paying for student loans. Eventually, you pay off student loans, and that number jumps up quite significantly. So overall, does it make sense to borrow private student loans for law school if you needed them? In general, the answer is yes, but with a caveat that if you're going to borrow substantial private student loans, you should only do it if you have a goal of being a very highly paid attorney in a private practice setting or like a corporate kind of field or, big law. And if your goal is to do some sort of public interest work, then you need to attend a law school that is willing to financially help support you in that, with potentially giving you some kind of forgivable loan for attending a more prestigious institution, given that public service loan forgiveness is now very limited compared to what it was in the past, with only $50,000 per year borrowing limits. That's going to substantially decrease the value of PSLF and the ability of lawyers that are going into public interest to really truly benefit as much as they could from that. Which means that in making these decisions about borrowing, you should think really carefully about borrowing private student loans for law school unless there's a chance that you'd be earning one of these top dollar legal jobs after graduation. If you need help thinking through your law school borrowing plans, reach out to Student Loan Planner, check out our website. We would love to help you.